5 years after they married, Priscilla left and took up with her karate instructor. People close to Elvis say he never got over it. Of all the women in the world who fell for Elvis Presley, he chose this one. Meet Priscilla Presley, the only woman Elvis married and the woman who bore his only child. They met when Elvis was in the service, stationed in Germany. Priscilla was only 14. She was called an Air Force brat. In 1973, 5 years after they married, Priscilla left and took up with her karate instructor. People close to Elvis say he never got over it. Now, Priscilla and their 12-year-old daughter Lisa are on their own. Priscilla does television commercials and is studying acting. This fall, she'll host a program about animals for ABC. From Los Angeles, Priscilla Presley.
It was during that time when your father was in the Air Force and Elvis Presley was in the Army that you two first met. Could you tell me how that happened and where it was and what the circumstances were?
Gee, it was, a month after I arrived in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was sitting in a snack bar. It wasn't really a snack bar. It was just a place where a lot of the people would used to go and have hamburgers and Cokes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And a gentleman came up to me and asked if I'd like to meet Elvis. And I thought he was kidding and said, sure, yeah. All right, now what? And he says, no, I'm really serious. I go to his house a lot, and would you like to go? And I said, I still didn't believe him. And then it was another day that I was there, and he was also there. And he said, I'm serious. I told him about you, and he'd like to meet you. It sounds very, offbeat, but that's exactly how it happened. And then I asked my parents. My parents were very leery. Didn't think, had really checked him out to see if it was okay. And I went, and from that moment on, we started seeing each other. I didn't know at that time if it was ever serious. I mean, it was just something. He was very lonely, and I occupied a lot of his time. I mean, he had an affinity toward me. He had a great care for me. I guess after we saw each other for the 8 months that we did, I figured I'd never see him again. I didn't think I ever would. And then he started calling me and kept the relationship going. And I'd hoped to see him again, but I didn't see him until 1962 when he called and asked my parents if they would allow me to go over there and see him. Over there meaning going to LA. I was back still in Germany.
At what point did you move to Graceland?
I moved to Graceland when I was close to 16.
But not to marry him, just to live there and to continue your schooling. What kind of an arrangement was that they worked out?
The arrangement was that I was going to a Catholic school, all-girl Catholic school. And my parents, they arranged it together, my parents and Elvis, making sure that I got my education. Mm-hmm. And that was the arrangement. And I lived at Graceland, and his grandmother, well, the whole family lived there, so that's where I stayed.
Would you say it was a sheltered life, Priscilla?
I didn't realize how sheltered until later in my years, but later, last 2 years, I didn't realize that it was a very sheltered life.
What did your friends think? I'm sure you rode up in a limousine with all kinds of people, and they'd see little Priscilla get out of the car and walk in and say, wow, what's going on here?
Very few words were ever exchanged. Very few. I mean, I went to school, did what I had to do, and left. I didn't really develop a friendship with anyone. Very few people asked me any questions. It was done very secretly. I was dropped off, and at 9 o'clock in the morning, I would go only 9 to 12. I wore a uniform. And I remember rushing and changing my clothes real fast because I didn't want to be teased by all the guys. Yeah. My uniform.
Did you ever want to rebel against that? Did you ever want to just break out of that and say, hey, I want to be me. I don't want this wall around me or this protection?
Not at that time.
No?
I don't think so, not at that time. I was too young and just living. I didn't really think about it.
Did he spoil you? Lots of presents, lots of goodies?
Yeah, but he spoiled everyone. He was just very generous.
When you and Elvis finally decided that your marriage was over, it has been written that even though it was over, you remain good friends. Is that a true statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't care what's been written. We were always very close. We had a very good relationship. In fact, Lisa, our daughter, was always felt very healthy that way because it was always as if we never divorced.
Following his death, what did you make of all the, I'm going to say the word opportunists, who were quick to write books, quick to put out pirated record albums, posters, other bits of memorabilia to make a fast buck. What did that do to you, and how did you feel about that?
I think that was the hardest thing in the world to deal with. People who were friends for so many years that you confided in. People, in fact, it goes on today. You know, these people who you do trust, to turn around and to do something like that, it's a low blow. It was a low blow for him. Those are things you just don't do. You know, you don't, or you hope will never happen to you. I mean, you're very vulnerable at that point in your life when you're in the limelight. And one of the most difficult things in the world is to explain that to a child, you know, who she cared very much about a lot of people who were in the group, and even, you know, today, to see these books being written, thinking that these were her friends, these were part of the family. Why, you know?
Has it been difficult for you to explain to her some of the things that have been written unfairly and erroneously about her father? How do you do that?
Oh, you just, that's Tom, that's really difficult. I mean, I keep as much from her as possible. She hasn't seen a lot, and she doesn't want to believe a lot of it. But again, you know, you say, hey, you know, he was a great person. He was wonderful. He was your dad. And how do you see him? And she just sees him as her dad, and wonderful and kind and generous, and not as they, you know, portray him.
I'm certain that since Mr. Presley died, a number of people might have approached you to write your version or your memoirs or My Life with Elvis or whatever the title might have been. You've resisted those suggestions.
Right.
Why?
Well, I don't feel at this time in my life why should I do that? I mean, I don't. I'm still living my life. My daughter's still living her life. He's had so much written about him that I think enough has been said. I hope the people, the public, will see him as a great entertainer and a great person, and not, you know, what people have portrayed him. I mean, there's so much untruth about a lot of that I couldn't see that. I couldn't see doing that.
Will the day come when you would sit down and write the version, the correct version that you and you alone know?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think what I'm doing is kind of observing a little bit. I'm kind of watching to see, you know, what's being done. Maybe there will be a time, maybe after I see a little bit more. But someone, I agree, needs to write the real truth. And I don't know. At this time, I can't say that.
You would have had every reason to begin your acting career a little earlier than you did, but you delayed it for a while when Mr. Presley died. You said to yourself and to the people that represent you, this is not the time. What was the reason for that decision?
Well, so many people cashed in, I believe, on him and his name, and I didn't want that feeling out about myself. I didn't want people to think he's died. Oh, and here comes Priscilla. She's doing the same thing, and which was I was going to do a career. I have a career before he even died. I was, you know, I had an agent. Then when he died, I can't do this.
This is a little dicey, but do you have to have a career?
No, I don't have to. I don't have to have anything. I don't have to have, you know, it's my choice.
I mean, are you pretty well fixed?
Thanks. Yes, I'm fine. I want a career. I want to be productive. I want to do something with my life. You know, I had a shop in Beverly Hills for 3 years, and it was very successful, and I sold it to my partner, and then I kind of sat back for a year or two and thought, gee, I really contemplated on what I wanted to do. And I don't enjoy sitting around. I'm very active. I like doing and experiencing everything. I'm adventurous. I like new things. So why not?
Were you up for the Charlie's Angels?
Yes.
Why would you do the thing on animals instead of Charlie's Angels?
Because that's what, again, I feel like I'm growing with it's so educational. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm trying to fool myself, thinking, yes, it can be done. I think it can be done. You know, I enjoy people very much. I learn a lot from them. And I enjoy what I'm doing, especially right now. You know, I'm doing a show this season, which has to do with animals. Now, see, that's something I enjoy doing. I love animals. So I'm doing the things I like to do.